Last week, the Angle warned you about what was coming. It's called the Great Reset. And this idea was first designed by the global elite at the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. Well, our timing could not have been better. At this moment, and certainly not getting the attention it deserves, Biden's piggy bank, Michael Bloomberg, is holding something called the New Economy Forum. Doesn't that sound fun? This annual summit brings together corporate CEOs, activists, UN officials, and your garden variety washed up politicians like Bill and Hillary Clinton. But they all have one thing in common: the shared goal of reorganizing the world so that assets are distributed more equitably, more fairly. And health security and so forth, climate change, all of it's part of it. And they're not even trying to hide their plans. This was Mike Bloomberg in his opening address to the forum.
As we meet, governments around the world are mobilizing trillions of dollars to address the economic effects of the pandemic. It's an unprecedented opportunity not only to repair the damage, but also to address the problems that existed before the pandemic hit.
And by problems, he really means your freedom and prosperity. And the solutions that Bloomy and his globalist groupies are proposing all involve more centralized control over your life, like how much energy you use.
Carbon must be given a price. The time of fossil fuel subsidies is over. We must phase out coal. Authorities must integrate the goal of carbon neutrality in all economic and fiscal policies and decisions.
Well, Joe Biden agrees with this. It's part of his platform, after all. Goodbye energy independence. Hello, Chinese solar panels. Bloomberg also invited his CCP buddies to make faux appeals for global unity.
We should build an open world economy that works for all. We must firmly safeguard the multilateral trading system under the WTO and unequivocally reject unilateralism and protectionism. When China does well, the whole world will benefit.
Ask the Uyghurs how they're doing. I feel like I've heard, though, this somewhere before.
A rising China is a positive development, not only for the people of China, but for the United States and the world as a whole.
It's almost as if Joe's Build Back Better mantra refers to China's economy and not our own. At best, it's a return to the failed policies that resulted in almost no income gains at all for American families for decades as China's situation got better and better. So how long will it be until Americans start realizing that economic populism in the 21st century is the most sustainable model for our country's success? Well, clearly 73, 74 million Americans get it. You might not have liked Trump's tweets or sometimes his tone, but you're sure as hell going to miss his America First ethos and results. Joining me now is Victor Davis Hanson, Hoover Institution Senior Fellow. Victor, does any of this, what you just heard, surprise you?
Well, a little bit, because when Rahm Emanuel tried this, remember 12 years ago, he said, never let a serious crisis go to waste. It was an embarrassment. And he was saying there was no public support for these crazy ideas, cash for clunkers or shovel-ready jobs or socialized medicine. They had to push it on people under the guise of a crisis. And everybody thought, wow, that's really deplorable to say that. 12 years later, everybody from Justin Trudeau in Canada or to Gavin Newsom here in California, Hillary Clinton, Michael Bloomberg, they're proud of it. They're saying that we're going to use this crisis and push down your throat something that has no popular support. It had no popular support in the election. That's why Joe Biden stayed in the basement. He didn't campaign on these issues. That's why Kamala Harris crashed in the primaries. That's why Michael Bloomberg spent $1 billion and got 0 delegates. He couldn't even affect the vote in Florida or Ohio, and he spent over $100 million. So what was that agenda? What were people saying, Laura? They were saying, you know what? We don't want an open border and driving down American wages. We don't care about the WTO and the WHO and the UN, and we're going to honor the Constitution first. And we don't think that giving these endless concessions from China is going to make them democratic and a world partner and a world citizen. It's not going to happen. They said, we're not going to deindustrialize the Middle West. There's no reason to do that. And we want to save this $1 trillion energy sector. It's given us all this freedom in the Middle East. It's given us jobs. And you know, you don't have to reset anything.
Yeah.
Just if we were talking 9 months ago, Laura, I've never seen an economy in my own hometown where employers were begging for labor. Labor had leverage over employers. Donald Trump had recalibrated the Republican Party away from the caricature of a bunch of wealthy golfers into a middle-class, workers, nationalist, populist that made race increasingly
Victor,
incidental. It was class. It was
Victor,
this nationalism.
Yeah,
it was
this
working.
crowd,
I didn't even know what the word Zoom meant. Did you? 9 months ago?
No,
you know,
thankfully.
We didn't have an economy of Walmart
I still don't
and
use it.
Target
Hold on.
and
BDH,
Facebook.
hold on. Former Bush Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, he wants Biden, of course, to reset our relationship back toward China.
The U.S.-China relationship has become more fraught. We've seen more tariffs, and fewer students and scholars are heading in either direction. A competitive approach to China was inevitable, but keeping it healthy and not pernicious is vitally important. President-elect Biden will need to get the dimensions of competition with China right.
Translation, we don't want wages to keep going up for the average American. We liked it the old way. Victor, this is more manufacturing
Or better yet,
destruction.
maybe translation, let's see how much money I've made out of China and my friends. I'll give a complete dossier and be transparent, and then you can translate what I just said. That's what he's saying to you. Tell that to somebody in Michigan or Ohio or in Bakersfield that's job was outsourced, why Hank Paulson and Michael Bloomberg, who is making billions on capitalizing Chinese communist countries with Western capital. So, you know, these Davos people, they have no credibility, they have no popular support.
Disgusting.
And so they always use a crisis to say, you know what, we're smarter than you. This is a guy, remember Michael Bloomberg, that said, you drop a seed, it's really easy to farm. If you put him on a tractor, he would crash into the wall. He doesn't know anything about the practical lives that millions of Americans live in. You know, it's pathetic. It really is.
It's that clip from Paulson and much of what I saw coming out of that conference was absolutely, it was infuriating and disgusting and disheartening. But I think you're right. They have zero credibility. But what they have now is their man, it looks like, going to the White House unless something wild happens with one of these court cases. And we're just going to have to, speaking of the resistance, just going to have to resist. Victor, thank you so much.